Hi, everybody. We are so excited to see you today. And today we're talking all about podcasting, specifically video podcasts. We're going to get into it. Uh, as we were preparing for this topic, it got heated. So I think it's going to be a great conversation. And before we get into it, Angela, introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, my name is Angela. I am the writer of two newsletters. One is called Please Hustle Responsibly, which is a newsletter for creators and entrepreneurs. The other one is called Melanin MVP, which is for women of color, sports fans, and everyday athletes. I also host two podcasts associated with those newsletters. One is Melanin MVP, so same name as a newsletter, and the other is Honey and Hustle. Honey and Hustle is the show that I've had the longest. It was a pandemic podcast. I started it in March of 2020. So our 6-year anniversary is coming up next month. And yeah, excited to talk about video podcasting, at least my perspective on video podcasting, and answer any questions you guys may have about it. Michelle, your turn.
Okay. Hi, my name is Michelle Jackson, and I run two projects that I'm going to share with you. The first is Creators Getting Paid. My goal is to help creators better monetize their business and brands through list building and collaboration. It does have a podcast as well. It's an audio one. I also run a website and podcast called Square State Colorado, all about Denver and the state of Colorado. And that also has a podcast. Yeah, I love talking about the city. I think it's a weirdly interesting place to be from. I get a lot of questions. And so I've been working on that. Corey, what about you?
My name is Corey Gums. I am the founder of the Black Podcast Association, as well as Black Pod News, blkpodnews.com, which is a newsletter right here on Substack. And I'm a sitting board member of AIR. And yeah, welcome everyone. Glad to see everybody today.
Okay, so we actually brainstormed like several months worth of content. So we were really surprised to see all these like random developments. It felt random a little bit. Developments around the video podcasting space. So I guess before we get into the conversation, I think it'd be interesting to hear what each one of us would perceive to be a video. Like, what's our definition of a video podcast or a podcast in general? Who would like to go to start with that? I have Corey go.
I'm looking at Angela on my screen the whole time.
I know.
She would not crack.
She's like, don't look at me, Michelle.
There's no such thing as a video podcast. It's an audio format. I've expressed.
I'm about to exit this live right now. Did you guys hear that?
You got a good chance to go before me. Podcasting is an audio format. And when you add video, now you're just doing what you've been doing on YouTube for the past 20 years, which is either a vlog or a talk show or whatever it is that they used to call it before. People try to just convert what they were doing on YouTube into a podcast. Get it out the way now.
Listen,
Angela, what are your thoughts?
I'm trying to keep it PG for the folks in the comments, okay? They don't deserve to hear this wrath. Here's what I will say. I started my show as a video podcast. Like, I didn't even put audio up on an RSS feed until after I finished season 1. And there are a couple of distinctions between what I consider to be a video podcast and what I think is popularly referred to as a video podcast nowadays. I think people equate a video podcast to a 2-person or a co-hosted interview style talk show. Very lightly edited, no segments, really relying on the guest for a lot of this, and then like clipping it into something else and then just throwing the audio up on an RSS feed. So there's no consideration for how the video or the viewing experience translates to the audio experience. In Corey's words, like there's no relationship between audio and video. for a video podcast for much of what we see today. I don't agree with that. That's not how I've ever approached creating a video podcast. That's not how people before me have approached it. I would say that video podcasting being an adaptation of what people are doing on YouTube is also incorrect. I think, there was a time when posting long form on YouTube was not it. People, you'd be lucky to see something beyond 5 to 12 minutes for a show because that's the format and this time length that YouTubers got used to for ads and YouTube AdSense. So posting something longer than 30 minutes, I mean, that was really longer than 20 minutes. That was like diabolical back in the day. That definitely was not recommended. So that is definitely a new thing. I think with YouTube's acceptance of the fact that people were already doing it, so they created a home for them. Um, I think I could go on and on about the relationship between audio and video, but ultimately, I do see video podcasting one as an extension of audio podcasting, just as audio podcasting is an extension of radio. I mean, is it fair for someone who used to do radio to say podcasts aren't real? You're just reimagining what we were doing on broadcast for years.
Exactly what it was, though.
Okay, then that doesn't make it less valid, though, does it? Does it make a newsletter less valid because we're re-engineering the magazine?
Oh, because we're not calling it radio.
So you want everything to have its own name? Why can't video podcasting? Would you
I mean,
want?
if you really think about audio, it's what radio used to be before TV was in existence, but it's not. It's a it's a very specific medium that was for a very specific technology when it came out. It wasn't passed through the airwaves. It was passed through the internet.
Yeah. So as a YouTube
So
video,
the whole thing of
I don't
radio
know if
comes from
I feel
radio
like we're splitting
waves,
hairs.
which are waves that pass through the air.
Oh, yay.
Shorten it
So,
video, but
okay. There's still radio people that don't like
I'm gonna
podcasting?
clarify something because it would be I don't this I'm not my definition of podcasting in regards to video podcast has nothing to do with the correlation between audio and video as because audio and video technically really go together, like with through movies and other mediums. So,
They do.
specifically for podcasts is where my definition lies with the video podcast. And I could be dating myself because I grew up in a particular area where I'm just seeing people doing the same talk shows I used to watch on TV as a kid.
Okay. So if somebody said this is a talk show, but I put it out on an RSS feed, are you still gonna have a problem with it?
With his video?
Yeah.
For a long time, video wasn't even on RSS feed. So
If I make a video show and I put the audio on an RSS feed, are you still gonna have a problem with it?
if you put the audio on it, no.
Yeah. Okay then. Cool. So a video podcast is valid. Thank you for verifying that.
That doesn't
Okay.
make it valid.
So wait.
You just took the audio and turned it into a podcast. That's all you did.
Okay, so I'm
It's
gonna
the same
share
show.
some thoughts.
It has nothing to
For
do
the
about the show. It has to do about the
I
delivery
told
of the
you guys
news.
this got spicy when we were preparing.
I don't think it's that deep, but
Of
okay.
Okay, so listen.
I'm not making the argument off of what I'm saying.
YouTube is the internet, is it not?
Huh?
Oh my god.
YouTube is the internet,
Yeah.
and a playlist can have an RSS feed on YouTube, so it's the same thing. You just don't like that video. Most video podcasts that we know
You know what?
today are not
I
great,
think
and
it's
they are not a representation of audio.
Okay,
I
so let me
mm,
just share my definition real quick. So I it's funny because Angela over the year actually has gotten me to think a lot more deeply around how I experience video podcasts. I think that's a really important thing to kind of touch on. So for me, podcasts have always been an audio forward medium. Okay. And out of the three of us, Angela was the one who was like, look, there are video podcasts, and just like really sharing her position, the art form, and that kind of thing. And what changed my like experience with those shows, because a lot of them, I'm going to be honest, are terrible. But what changed was I started watching or listening to really well produced ones. And it wasn't that independent people were the problem. It was the celebrities who were the problem with video podcasts. And I think that is why a lot of people are like poo-pooing video podcasts. So like
mhm.
every freaking celebrity out there wants to see themselves out there in the world and they've got their podcast They're poorly done. They're not like deep thinking conversations. They're on video. And I started every once in a while watching The Pivot. Absolutely love that show. Three former football players. They're all Black. Um, they are all Black former football players. And what happened was those conversations were thoughtful. They were they weren't scripted. They were vulnerable. They were interesting, and they had me they hooked me in a way that a lot of the video shows that I'd seen before, which I would call a show versus like a podcast, um, The Pivot hooked me. And then I started slowly experiencing other shows, independent or not, that were done in a way that I felt were very like video forward, or excuse me, audio forward, even though it was a video medium. And so I've slowly like, do I still, vaguely think of it as a talk show? I kind of do. But do I have respect for the medium and what they're presenting to me more and more? Absolutely. And I understand why Angela's like, look, it's a podcast. And things change, quite frankly. Things freaking change. And as much as I want things to stay the same in some respects, things change. And I have to be a little bit flexible as well, but I want the content to match the experience I'm expecting from the conversations that they're curating on what's a podcast.
Can I ask you a question,
So,
Michelle?
yeah.
So if it was an audio only show, would you still have the same particular interest based off the content? Because it sounds like you're talking more about how
Yeah.
they do the content than the difference between audio and video.
I prefer audio because I'm multitasking. So like podcasting for me is very approachable because I'm able to consume it when I'm doing other things, right? The video shows, the shows that are video forward have developed an experience that works really well audio only. They want us to watch it, but I'm probably just listening, and it's a really good experience. But there are some shows where they forget that there's a video forward experience and an audio experience. And so being able to navigate that, I think, is a skill that a lot of people don't have. And so the shows that I have gotten excited about, they're able to navigate between the two.
So I'm noticing two things in this conversation. One, how people watch and engage with video podcasts, if they do at all. And then
Mm.
two, the production side of things. Um, I think Hi, I assume y'all mentioned Apple moved to video this spring. We're getting there. We're getting there. Not
You're not
yet, though,
there yet.
Stephanie. Um, so I think when I first started posting about my video podcast on Twitter, and again, this is in 2020 when it was not popular to do so as an indie. I think a lot of the response was video podcasts are boring. Why would I ever sit down and watch a 1 hour interview? Um, and I think there's a couple of things there. One, that is quite literally exactly how I started watching video podcasts and why I started a video podcast because I was so interested in whoever the host and the guests were that's what I was watching. I always give credit to Matt D'Avella for kind of starting that. I wouldn't say he started, let me not say that. But for me, that was my first introduction to like a 3 camera setup video interview, long form video interview that segments, that was really engaging, really captivating, and just packaged really well. And he was doing this like, I think he started in like 2018. So this is years ago. But also, I think I would even say pre-2022, like, the ability to get a camera with an unlimited record time, let alone more than one, was really expensive. So it really just wasn't, accessible to a lot of people to do video podcasts. So I think, the people that were rising to the top, the Joe Rogans of the world, the whoever else is, the Joe Buttons, these are all people that could afford multi-camera crews, right? Even Riverside was still fairly new in 2020, and this, was at
Mhm.
the very beginning of people doing, like, virtual meetings and virtual recordings, so I hadn't really picked up there, so the accessibility of doing a video podcast was not as high as it is now, and also, even though if it was accessible to you, it was very, very expensive. The only reason I had cameras to do that was because I was already in freelance filmmaking, so I had accessibility to that. So I think people are also feeling the push of, like, the expense of potentially adding a video component to their show, um, that they did not want to incur if they already were feeling like the audio version of their show was not performing well enough to generate revenue and afford them the ability to upgrade their gear. Um, I just said a lot of words, but basically, I think now that even though video is an equalizer, I think people are still finding reasons to be objective to it, because they don't want their face on camera, and that is fine to an extent. I think I'm gonna stop there because I'm gonna hurt somebody's feelings. Let's go to Corey.
You never hurt my
I
feelings.
I so want you to say whatever you're about to say.
I think, going to the production side of things, right? Michelle has mentioned, like, doing a show that translates well for both audio and video, is a skill. Being a good host is a skill. Making any audio product that someone wants to watch or listen to is does have to do with craft and publishing a quality product. And my firmest belief is the people that are continuing to push back on video as a medium are not good at audio to begin with and are going to struggle with video because they already aren't doing a good job generating revenue from their show and generating a show that people want to listen to by itself anyway. I think there's an element of video podcasting that becomes like a comfort show. So I think Michelle was like, well, I generally just listen to this show. There's a lot of people that listen to comfort shows and they're very popular. The Office, New Girl, Schitt's Creek. Sorry to all these white shows that I'm mentioning, but it's Black History Month and I don't care. So listen, those are shows that people, you know what I'm saying? And your friends tell you, like, yeah, I had New Girl on, but I'm on like season 2 and I don't know what's going on. Of course you don't. It's your comfort show. You know what I'm saying? But it's still gonna be rated top 10 on Netflix at least once a year for whatever reason. I don't know. I don't watch that show, but all I'm saying is there's a lot of video podcasts that fit into that. There's a lot of comments here that I think we should get to.
Steve, I
Alright, let's do
responded
that.
to the text message, Steve. So what you wanna know from me? I mean, look, I wanna clarify something too. I despite what I feel about the audio video thing of the terminology, I'm in alignment with, Angela in a lot of ways, especially when it comes to the production side. When I consult and have people reach out to me, we do it at our studio, and, the studio I'm a co-founder of. We do it in the studio. You can do audio, you can do video, you can do remote video if you want, right? Like, we offer everything. And I remember when I first got started, when I was doing my mobile recording studio, that was one of the big questions that started coming up, was like, "Do you do video?" And at the time, I wasn't set up for that, and it wasn't as popular as it is now. Like you said, Riverside, Zoom, all those platforms, Squadcast, all those, even, what's the StreamYard, they did okay. They were doing it okay for the time that it was done. And then when COVID happened, it ramped up the technology because more and more people came on and, people were complaining about the quality. I don't think if COVID would have happened, I don't think we would be where we're at with video and podcasting and
Exactly.
just the technology of it all. But um, I realized that as a business owner, I couldn't leave money on the table, right? It's like, okay, and the rate, and I also had to raise my rates because it was like, this is more production, more work. It's more than, and when I talk to people about video or podcasting, it's like it's lighting. It's more than just a camera. It's lighting. You got to make sure something I learned the hard way. And you probably laugh at me for this, Angela. And one day I'm going to upgrade to the remote wireless HDMI system. But I had brought the wrong cable length and I was losing signal, right?
Mm.
So, you're learning these things as you're going along, but then you realize, oh, fiber optic HDMI costs a pretty penny, right? So you don't lose. So it's like all these learning curves that come on with everything, just like with the audio equipment, there's learning curves with that. And it's like now it's double the learning curve because even though they go hand in hand with each other, you got to learn this skill over here, and then you got to learn this other skill, and it becomes overwhelming. And I always encourage people, especially when they're getting started in podcasting, to start audio first. Back to what Michelle was saying, the data's still there. The majority of podcast listeners still listen via audio. because usually for the past 20 years, most people have listened to the audio format because they were doing other things. They were traveling, they were commuting, they were driving, they were listening while they're working out, they're doing it while they're cooking. So that's why I feel so strongly about the video and audio part because it's, the majority of the people who still listen to podcasts still do it in the audio format. I think because companies started entering the conversation because they saw it as a platform during COVID to get increased ad revenue. And really, yeah, even though I debate about the YouTube part, Spotify kind of spearheaded it because they were throwing all that money at all these different celebrities, and they had to figure out how to get a return on their investment. So you have to deliver video as well as audio because the audio listenership is still such a very small base in comparison to people who watch content on video. So that's where a lot of this comes into.
I actually want to make a point touching on the COVID piece, which is I think there's something even simpler to the whole like video became popular during COVID.
Mhm.
I was in a place that had a lockdown. And so literally people wanted to see people. I think it was
Yeah,
just that.
yeah. Yep.
People physically wanted to see people. So a video podcast was very compelling because I was in my house for 3 months by myself. Literally for
Human
3
like, the
months.
human element, right? That's the closest
Yeah,
thing
you
I
wanted
needed. Yeah,
people,
yeah.
but we're not in lockdown anymore. And so I think our expectations of how we would experience a video podcast or a need for it has also changed. And I feel like when we have these conversations around video podcasting, I think the genesis of the like the growth spurt we don't talk about enough. And I think literally people just wanted to see people. And now, we haven't touched on this, but like nowadays you've got short form video, you've got long form video, you got all these video options, right? And as much as I love this, I love doing this. I really enjoy it. We're live, whatever. But when I record, like I've just started a YouTube channel, and it just feels different than doing something like this live. It feels not as, it doesn't feel as natural, actually, as it does to do audio or to do a live. Like, the experience of video for me is definitely different. I'm excited to have the challenge and kinda go about learning how to do it, but to your point, Corey, like, I get tired of learning tech. I really do. Like, tech is tiring. Tech can, like, there's all these different pieces of tech that you have to go learn, and, this year, I was thinking about the fact that I might have to set aside a couple of weeks, a quarter, just for tech so that I can stay educated on what's going on, but so it doesn't uh, delay my brand growth because I have to learn these things. And I think a lot of times, like people just, we have only so much bandwidth. And so having to learn like these, I haven't even heard of these chords before, Corey, that you guys are talking about. I'm like, what the fuck? What chords are these? Right. And so I'm new to doing video in the way that I'm doing it for YouTube. And now I'm like, oh, and there's this chord that I gotta think about. I just feel like people um don't take into account that it does take time to learn a thing. It just does. And I don't know that I'm always that excited about it these days because I have a lot of stuff going on. Will I do it? Yes. But I have to set time aside to do it. So there's that.
So I want to actually take back something I said, and I think it goes towards Corey's point, but it also does not help. Um, so Corey was saying that he doesn't feel like video podcasts are podcasts because of the distribution method, because they are largely distributed. They now are distributed via RSS, but previously were mostly distributed. I did it on Facebook too. So I actually posted long form on Facebook, believe it or not.
Oh,
And I would post on YouTube for the first season. But now obviously video podcasts can be on Spotify, they're on Apple, they're on all the things. Um, if we think about YouTube kind of really now being one of the places that people most watch video podcasts. Spotify's catching up obviously because they have to, but YouTube is TV. And YouTube does a lot of things better than their competitors. I think YouTube does podcasts better than Spotify and Apple, on video podcasts at least. I think YouTube does music better than a lot of places. YouTube does documentary better than just about everywhere else. Docu-style videos. I think YouTube is also, on some level, starting to compete on narrative filmmaking because YouTube is TV and people are watching for TV, which is why Substack made it a TV app so that people can watch us on their TV because everything is TV, right? So, like during the pandemic, I think people just wanted to be able to watch anything anywhere they could watch it, and now people have decided, you know what, it is valuable for me to spend time at home. And I want to enjoy my home and I want to be able to watch whatever I want to watch. And for a lot of people, YouTube is outbeating Tubi, Netflix, Hulu, HBO, all the things because it's free, plus ads. So, in that sense, technically, a video podcast is TV. It is a show. It is not a podcast. However, it is more repurposeful than an audio only show because you have the audio associated with the video that you can strip. However, we may not recommend that, but you do have it that you can put on an RSS feed. And you have it where you can transcribe it. You can do that for audio too. You can transcribe it. You can put it as a newsletter. You can do a lot more things with a long form video that are making podcasters feel as though the ease of marketing is not there, which is also a source for all these fucking complaints. Excuse my French. For people being like, oh, I don't want to do clips. I don't have clips. I have an audio show. I don't care what you don't want to do. YouTube doesn't care what you don't want to do. Your listeners, our potential listeners, don't care what you don't want to do. The reality is that simply posting your podcast on an RSS feed comes with inherent discovery challenges that Spotify and Apple have yet to fix no matter what they do. YouTube, however, has done a much better job at discovery than either of those platforms. So whether or not you like it, whether or not you want to be on TV or if you have a face for TV is of no consequence. It's about the fact that that's where we are as a people. So sorry.
Steve knows me very well.
He's going to clip that up. Oh God, don't clip that. This is for us. This stays in.
When? So I'm just competitive, y'all. Like I'm like, yeah.
He's just on that Corey was right.
I also want to throw out there. I think part of the whole debate with the audio versus video is and it's something. It's funny you brought up the Facebook part because I still have people say when they ask me, I want to start a podcast. Some of the older heads, whenever I don't think we're ever going to beat the allegations, but the first place they think of is Facebook because
Really?
that's because people were calling what they were doing on Facebook Lives podcasting during the pandemic. But I want to really throw it out there for a lot of people who may be watching this or listening. Like, you don't have to do video. I think you have to think about the strategy. Do I now recommend people to do video? Yes. Why? Because I believe you shouldn't leave you should meet your audience where they're at, and you shouldn't leave you shouldn't leave anything on the table. Do you have to do it? No. I think that you have to really sit down and think about, one, the capacity of what you're able to do, right? Because just running an audio podcast alone, it's a lot of work. Doing a video YouTube or video show is a lot of work. Then you want to marry the two. Now, I will say to what Angela was saying earlier is you can do video and just take the audio from there. But the people who've mastered it understand that, if you're going to do a video first approach, you have to be able to communicate in a way for when people listen, right? And I like to and I know this was a big push a couple of years ago, and it kind of died out, which was by making audio podcasts more accessible by being more descriptive about what's going on, when people are doing, like, somebody's talking about, oh, I'm eating this food, and it's like, you got to be descriptive, or you're recommending a product, or you're having a conversation with some friends about something that they can't see if it's on video. So while you're doing video, you also got to learn how to be descriptive in the audio portion. If that's your strategy, is to take the audio from your video and to give people the same experience via the audio experience. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
The other thing with going video to audio is that it can be a horribly distracting experience if you don't think about how people experience audio. So, like, there's a very large podcast that I've mentioned before where they were stripping their video and then just uploading it, to audio, and I hated listening to those episodes because it was so video forward. A lot of the descriptor words were like, "Look at this, see this, we're looking at this screen." I'm like, "How the fuck am I supposed to do that?" Because I'm listening to it.
Mhm.
Like, it just was really jarring at points within the conversation because I felt like as a listener, they'd forgotten that how I'm experiencing the conversation is completely different, you know? And so you just have to be, like, aware of those subtle things that can really trip up a really good conversation.
I wanna get to some of the comments here, if that's okay,
Okay,
and then
Let's
respond
please.
be
to
let's be descriptive for the audio listeners.
We have a
Stephanie
whole bunch of comments in the chat right now for those of you listening.
Stephanie Graham says, "Also, people are talking about taking over Rumble on Reddit. I never even heard of that.
I
I
don't know
also
what
haven't
Rumble
heard
is.
of Rumble. I also don't use Reddit, so I don't really know." Stephanie also says, "It does feel that the video is another step to make the production value as high as possible, and I'm not excited about that." I'm actually gonna push back on this, and this is actually going to something Corey said when he says that he, as of right now, recommends that people do a video podcast as well as an audio podcast, because he doesn't want people to leave things on the table. Here's my thing, and here's my hill that I will die on. So come at me all you want. Some of y'all's audio shows are not great. Let's just start there at a baseline.
That's a whole nother
Um,
show.
some of y'all's audio shows are not great. So to say that video makes it a higher production, your audio production isn't even high. Some of y'all don't use mics. Y'all don't
Like,
edit. Y'all don't do no type of mix. Y'all don't do no type of music. Y'all don't do no type of intro, no outro, no segments, no nothing. Y'all just show up and y'all think it's cute because you and your co-host are best friends and you're sipping a glass of wine and you think you're going to be the next Cam Newton. You're not. Okay. Okay. Glad we had this talk. Secondly, in order for there's so many other things that add to production value, not just video, you know? There's, your quality as a host. When I first started my show, I wasn't good. I was not a good host. I was forgetting questions in the middle of asking them. That's not good.
mm,
I was not able to steer a conversation past like 20, 25 minutes. That's not a mark of a good host. I didn't know how to put a lav mic on someone correctly. Not the mark of a good audio producer. Didn't know anything about audio mix. Not the mark of a good editor. Okay? Like some of y'all don't even want to do the basics. And then y'all say, "Oh, well, I'll just add video because clearly that's going to make my show audience grow." It won't. Glad we had this talk. Okay. Sorry.
almost
Corey, would
choked
you
on
like to
my
add
hot
anything?
tea. Dang.
I mean,
I have
I could add on top of that. I think, like again, I said, people need to sit down and think of their strategy and think about the experience that you're going to give them, and decide how you're going to you got to produce it, right? And that comes a lot of for the pre-production stuff, right? Planning it out. You know, I know some people who storyboard their stuff out. Some people write their scripts. Uh, So it's like anything else. The higher the value of it, like the more value you want to put into it, the more work it takes, right? Like me playing basketball in a pickup game is completely different preparation than me playing on an NBA level, right? So like
Mm,
you got to think about what you're doing in that capacity, and that's why I always tell people like, what do you have the capacity for? Like when I'm coaching or talking to people about it, what do you have the capacity for? And then let's figure out what works for you in there. And I think the other part is, and it's something with the audio podcast space or any creative space, is people, they have these thoughts, these feelings, they want to jump right in, and they got to get it out. And they think that somebody's going to steal their idea or beat them to the punch. And that's where a lot of the bad production comes in, because this stuff takes time. I've been doing audio I've been in audio since I was 13, 14 years old. Like that's, when I had my rap group, when, I was learning all the stuff when we was in the studio doing our sessions, and I went to school for some of it for a while. Like, and I still don't understand compression, right? That's a joke amongst the audio engineers. It's like, do you ever really truly understand compression? And there's people who mastered it after like 50 years of being in the radio industry. So like lighting is to me, like when I started doing video, like pointing the camera and getting an angle shot, yeah, you can learn that, and I'm talking for myself. It was pretty quick to pick that up. Lighting, I spent so much time watching videos on YouTube about cinematography and just the angles of lighting. Like, even my lighting right now, I'm not happy about, but I got it to work so I don't look like washed out on my camera because I'm so light. But and I, and I really just don't have the time and patience right now to sit down and really get my angle right, my lighting right, because I had to move stuff around in my office. But like, Angela, you probably could relate to this. Once you got your lighting right, you don't want to touch it. I don't even want to touch it to turn it on sometimes, because that one little inch that you moved, it just throws everything off. So this stuff takes a lot of time to really truly learn and understand and master. And if you're going to do it, I think you have to create a pre-production workflow for yourself, so that you can give not only yourself opportunity to succeed at it, but you're giving your audience a good experience, both if you decide that you want to do video and audio as part of your delivery to your audiences.
But you know what? I want to talk about something specifically. Like, you're talking about all the tech behind producing a show. But for me, I'm going to give you grace for a while, as long as the actual conversation is good. Like, I will give you, because I'm not watching you guys like that, right? So I'm going to give you a little grace to get the visual, whatever, right? But if the conversation's good, I will stick with you. I will support it, and I'm going to assume over time, as you commit to whatever it is, that you're going to naturally improve the quality of what you're doing. So there are a lot of shows where I'm like, I don't know about this, but I don't know about this other part of it, but the conversation is so good, I'm here for it. And since I'm not the audience, like, how do I put this? I like YouTube, but I'm not sitting there watching YouTube. That I pay streaming. Like, I'm watching freaking that new Game of Thrones. Like, I'm paying my money for that stuff. So if I'm on YouTube, um, it's not necessarily because I'm trying to watch someone's show, even though there is that one coffee shop show that I think is fabulous. Okay. But if you are a creator and you've got an amazing conversation or topic that you're covering, I'm set. I'm going to listen. I'm excited about it. I'm not sitting there thinking initially, oh, her production quality and blah blah blah. I'm not that girl. I care about the conversation, because if it's bad, I'm out. I'm out faster about that than I am about how good you look. But there will be a point where I'm like, oh, like, I kind of, if I'm going to watch this, I hope it matches. But I'm slower to care about that than I care about the conversation and the topics way more than I do the other stuff. But there is a point where eventually it does catch up. Yes, Michael, that show is so good. I just started watching it this weekend.
Real quick, so I wanna go back to some of the comments, but I will say just on both of those that now that, like, my ear has been trained to understand what good audio is, like, I can't suffer bad audio. So if the audio
No, but I'm not talking audio necessarily. I'm talking about the conversation. I agree with you on audio. Audio is hard.
So yeah, so that's what I'm saying. And that is a technical thing, as Corey was saying. And like I said earlier in a comment, like, I think there's different mics for different things. And to this day, you will never see me with this microphone on a video podcast. You just never will. But anyways,
A shotgun mic.
I have shotgun mics. I have lav mics, like a real filmmaker does. So we're not doing this. Um, Stephanie Graham says, "What about full video on LinkedIn, Angela?" I don't do that. I have never seen a full video podcast on YouTube, and I don't think I ever will, because that's just not the consumption habits of people on LinkedIn. It's just not. Um, I think people barely watch live streams on there. We may test that out like one of these days. We may do stream to LinkedIn and see how it goes, but I think even people watching live streams on LinkedIn is just such a stretch. I don't really think that's just not how they consume. And even with like LinkedIn pushing this like short form video feed, I think they just really greatly overestimated how many people on LinkedIn like vertical video. Like, every horizontal video I've ever posted has outperformed every short form video, and I think it's gonna continue to be that way. I think LinkedIn could have done a much better job of catering to the right audience by doing a horizontal video feed. But that's just my 2 cents. Anyways, next thing. Steve Worthy says, "If I'm honest, my audio-only podcasts are better than my video. When I'm recording just audio, I'm in a zone and really focused on the content. With video, my recording is good. At the beginning, I was focused, distracted. Focused and distracted? Focused and not distracted? I don't know.
You can't write. Don't just
But with years of practice, I've been able to master both." Well, I'm happy you've been able to master both. I just showed up and y'all being spicy spice. Listen, you know where you
Gotta
can
do what we gotta do.
get Um, let's see. Stephanie says, "I do all those things and then to loop back and do it again for video is extra steps. I will figure out a system that works for me, but I'm not excited about it. Audio only is time consuming enough. Then don't do it.
Can
Don't
I
do
can
it."
I can I wanna jump in on that real quick 'cause the other part of this conversation is that there are a lot of podcasters out there, big podcasts that are real successful and they don't do video.
Mhm.
So you can still do podcasting without the video. I sometimes suggest to people who say they don't wanna put all the effort into video, it's just throw in a camera and just turn it into some behind the scenes footage for your from like, so you wanna do raw for like your Patreon or something, like, give it as
Mhm,
extra as an extra something extra for your audience if you're monetizing through Patreon or one of those types of or paywall or something, like, you don't have to go you don't have to do, like, all of this with the lights and all that stuff. That's just what I do, right? Because I have it sitting here in my house and wanna use it. Paid all this damn money for it. I'm going to use it. I'm gonna figure out some way to use it. But at the end of the day, there are there are very successful podcasts that use video, and then there's very successful podcasts that are strictly only audio, and that's why I go say always it goes back to your strategy and capacity of what you
Mhm.
can handle. Um, and back to what Angela's saying about the podcast mic stuff in the video. Look, I get triggered by that too because 99% of the time it's not even hooked up.
Oh. Oh?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. I could you could like if you're using this microphone that I'm using, right, and I could hear
Uh,
echoes. And
oh.
I could hear the room, and I could hear, like, it sounds like you're, like, in a bathroom or something. You're not I know you're not using your mic, you're using the mic on your phone or your camera or whatever because those are that's how that's the trained like Angel said, trained ear, I can tell. So, I think people but I also realize people and this is no disrespect to anybody that's watching or will be watching or listening to this,
Oh my god.
and this is something I learned when I was in the rap game, and you've heard me tell this story, like, I'm from Queens, DJ Clue's from Queens, and I remember when he was blowing up, I was in the music industry, and it wa a lot of because he was doing something different from at the time that everybody else was doing, all the other DJs thought this was the path to success to becoming just like him, and it would be, "Yo, Corey, can you give me the exclusive record from the label? Can you give me" and I'm like, "Bro, you know I can't do that." Like, he's paying people for that, like, he's going out here and he's got whatever relationships. And when T.I. and Ludacris talked about how many records they sold out of the trunk of their car, what did rappers start doing? When rappers started doing the mixtapes, what everybody else started doing? And I see that in this space. It's like you see somebody with a SM7 mic in their video, and you think you're supposed to go out and buy that microphone. And then people see the pricing and they're like, well, I don't want to do video because it's too expensive because this might cost this, and I got to get the Sony the FX30, and I got to get this. And I'm sitting here like, bro, like you don't even need all I'm still rocking with Canon T7i cameras, because I know that most places they break even though they say 4K, when you're streaming, they break it down to 1080p. So why am I gonna go to a 4K camera and stream 4K when I know it's gonna be I mean, there's reasons why you do that, but
correct. I
for the
wasn't gonna say nothing. I wasn't gonna
no,
correct you.
but, for the average person, you don't need to do all of that. So, like, I say all this is like, you're not obligated to do video if it's not something that you wanna do. Should you have a video strategy at this point in day and age? Unfortunately, and
I think so.
I'm gonna give this to Angela. You should have some kind of video strategy along with what you're doing, whether you're doing lives or, some other type of content. There should be some kind of video component that goes along with what you're doing with your audio.
I would 100% agree. I mean, the reason why I proposed doing this live streaming series last year was I felt like, there were a couple things, but I felt like there was a gap in my own brand, in terms of the content that I was producing because I had 0 video. And I saw that Substack was rolling out this opportunity, this tech, and I was like, "Well, no one else who's Black is doing it this way, like, why not? Like, why not leverage, like, as an early adapter, this opportunity?" But as the year has gone by, 1, it was a good idea, but 2, it's very clear that if you don't have behind the scenes B-roll or some kind of video component that complements what you're doing, that you might have a slightly unstable, uh, branding approach in the long run.
You touched on Substack offering live streaming as an opportunity for discovery and growth. And I think this is a good time to talk about Apple bringing, well, they already had video podcasts to be clear, but now they're bringing the ability to like do dynamic ads. If your host allows for you to do dynamic host read ads and have those dynamically inserted into your video podcast, I think they're updating some of the creator tools to allow you to create a video podcast a little bit better. Obviously, Apple Podcasts just like randomly rolled out the ability to clean up audio and record audio. So now it looks like they may be adding some of that functionality for video recording as well, specifically for Apple Podcasts. Um, and I have some speculation on why they're doing it. But I would love to hear maybe you guys' thoughts on like, do you think this really changes anything for people who may have already been watching video podcasts on Apple? Do you think this changes anything for creators who were posting video podcasts in other places, namely Spotify and YouTube? Um, do you think this is going to be a big proponent for people who leverage Apple podcast subscriptions? Like, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I did not know that Apple had that video option, so I think it's actually you know how, like, certain platforms have all these things that they do, but you don't know all the things that they do? So I think this was a really good opportunity for Apple to be like, "Oh, hey, by the way, we do this thing." And so there's been all this chatter around this component that they basically have always had available or for a while have had available to creators. One thing I was thinking about as we were talking is I do think that people need to fight the urge to post all their content everywhere. So I think there's this urge to be like, okay, so I have this video and I have this podcast and I have all this content. And so I'm gonna post it on Instagram and YouTube and LinkedIn and freaking Substack. I'm gonna do the same content everywhere. And I actually think that's a horrible, horrible approach. I think you need to lean into the platforms that you really enjoy. Like, I don't like LinkedIn. I'm so not interested. I don't want to be there. It's so boring. I hate all the bots. Why is freaking like this one of those popular dudes that I can't stand? Why is he sending me ads? Like I really hate LinkedIn, even though LinkedIn, if the leads are good, are good. But it's not you, Michael, because you're not. It's anyway. So I don't like LinkedIn. So why on earth am I on there? I'm not like this year, I'm not trying to I'm not trying to like do things that don't make sense just energetically. So I think that people need to lean into the spaces where they're really excited to be there. Energetically, it makes sense for you, and then own the platform, right? So do people have problems with like we're on Substack. But you know what? I'm going to own the live streaming option. Like I'm going to own this. Like we've got a branded show. We've talked about doing it in other places, which I'm excited about. But I'm excited that we are known for this thing that we've designed. I don't want to do this on every platform. Like that sounds horrible. I just think that people, as you develop your content, you don't need to be everywhere. And I really wish people would would fight back against this this notion that you have to be everywhere. You don't. Own the places that you energetically are super excited to be at and go all in, right? And then kind of go from there.
I think that's a conversation that we're gonna be having in a little while with your audience. I think I'm gonna answer your question, Angela, but for Michelle, what you're talking about, I think people need to understand. For me, like, where's your audience and where do you wanna concentrate your audience to? Like, we all know, like, most people, majority of the world probably is on YouTube. If they have access to internet and they can have access to high speed internet, they most likely gonna be on YouTube. YouTube is still a big platform for a lot of people in, in countries that don't have access to internet like we do. So, like, if you're gonna do video, is YouTube gonna be your audience? Where you decide to concentrate and bring your audience to or meet them there? Discoverability on YouTube has its own thing that you have to figure out, but is that what you're gonna do? I agree with you. I think that's part of the whole thing with video because I think people feel like they're obligated to do Instagram Reels and TikToks and LinkedIn and YouTube and Facebook. It's like,
And I
where
don't wanna do it.
yeah, but we're like, and I think if you're doing an audio podcast, you might wanna look at some of the platforms and, if you're doing a video and audio, you might wanna look at where are the people really watching your content at, right? Like, is it on YouTube? Then maybe put it there. LinkedIn is a weird space. Like, LinkedIn is trying to get into the audio, the video, and it's never really caught on. And I also tell people this too, like, I've learned this, right? Like, I think when people are on like, us as humans, I don't think we're so self-aware of it. When you're on certain platforms, you have certain types of behavior, right? So,
Mhm.
like, like when Twitter was a thing, you went on Twitter and you knew how to kinda knew how to act on Twitter, right? How you acted on Twitter might not have been how you acted on your Facebook. Before, all the other stuff was added to Instagram. Instagram was, "This is for pictures," so you had a certain mentality. Like, and I will say, I think Threads is one of those platforms where you see
I love being on Threads.
how people are trying to figure out what Threads is supposed to be to the point where people are like, "This is not X, this is not Twitter, this is Threads, don't bring that here," right? So it's like it's a new space, so it's sorting itself out. So you gotta think about that strategy. As far as Apple goes, have been had video. I used to watch This Week in Startups years ago
Mhm.
on their video show. Um, but then I saw they had it on YouTube. So for me, it was like, well, if you're on YouTube, I'll just go watch it on YouTube. Why am I watching it here? And it was eating up my phone space. So I was like, man, I don't have to download these videos and watch it here. I can just go on YouTube and stream it from YouTube when I want to watch it. Or watch it on my TV now that you could, when they add the YouTube apps to TV. Um, Apple's strategy with podcasts has always kinda been like it's like the little brother that everybody just lets run around, right? And they always seem to be, like, a little more reactive. When it comes to video, and don't quote me, you can probably quote me on this. As far as when it comes to video with podcasts, Apple was doing it before everybody else.
Mm.
Outside of YouTube, because YouTube is I consider its own thing. There was
Yeah.
no other platform was doing video, but Apple had it, but they weren't promoting it because like a lot of these companies, if it's not making money or they haven't had they didn't have a monetization strategy, but now they're starting to like, add in some, you said, look how long it took them for you to get subscriptions off of there. Like have
Mhm.
people pay for subscriptions on the Apple podcast. Remember people were bitching and complaining about that for a long time. And then Apple finally did it, figured out how to do it. And that came with their price, how they do business with iTunes. They just copy that model. But like they always seem to be a little more reactive. So I'm like, this is kind of like, all right, are we? And every time Apple does a change, like people start questioning, is Apple finally making an investment into their podcast app? And then Apple just kind of just like dwindles out and just like, all right, we gave you this, let's see what you do with it. So that's where I'm kind of at with it. I think the most important part of this is the access, like you said, Angela, with like being, working with these hosting services, and that's the other thing because they're only working with a certain group of hosting services. So it's kind of
Mm.
you if you want to use this, you kind of got to go to those platforms and switch and that's a whole nother headache for with podcasters is switching them from one hosting service to another. But I think I think that's the part that's important. Is like now I don't have to leave my hosting service and go onto this platform to to do these things that I can do with Apple. I think this is kind of Apple's way of like going after Spotify, saying you don't need to be on our platform in order to do this.
I also think that the Apple people develop in the way that Google does. Like, you know how like Google will
Yeah, which
innovate
one?
and then there's like I had a Google Fi phone. I loved it and I could like I broke my phone and then I could call using my laptop until I could get the phone. Like they do these cool things, but then they don't really they don't invest in the cool things they do. They just like tinker with stuff. And so I feel like maybe Apple for this specifically, they're like, "Let's tinker with this thing until we, like, have time to circle back to it." And so
Mhm.
now with people getting upset with Spotify and with the ads that they've been placing into people's content, stuff like that, I think that Apple is like, "Oh, this is a good time for this." I don't know that they're deeply invested.
I'm gonna actually I was with you until we got into Apple versus Spotify. So my thinking is that Apple is if you I think it helps to think of Apple more as a competitor to Google and Spotify just as like this foreign company that's trying to get in where they fit in terms of aggregating music and podcasts into one app. And I say that because Google had Google Podcasts that they discontinued, and people were all like up in arms about it. But like they basically transitioned that to YouTube Music so that video podcasts are under YouTube Music now. So you can get them on the YouTube Music app and on the YouTube main app. And they just kind of stopped talking about it and just let YouTube and like creators and like the YouTube video podcast team kind of take over. And that's because Google has physical stuff and they also have Google Workspaces. That's probably where majority of their money comes from. Is people purchasing Google Workspace subscriptions, purchasing Google Cloud storage like me, people buying their phones and their tablets and their physical wearables. Spotify has none of that. Apple, on the other hand, they have MacBooks, they have iPads, they
Mhm.
don't have iPods anymore, but we're not going to go there.
Ugh.
Listen, they have where they have physical products. That's where a majority of their money comes from. It's not from people buying ads on Apple Podcasts. It's just not. That's a Spotify model. Spotify needs ads to survive. So they need a reason for people to stay on the app longer, which is why video podcast and like paying creators supposedly is such a lucrative like investment for them. And so when I think about Apple Podcasts now saying, yes, we've always had video podcasts, but now you can do dynamic host read ads because YouTube just added dynamic host read ads for
Mm.
YouTube, which people said would never happen. And I'm gonna stand so happy always because I kept saying it's possible and nobody believed me. So we need to stop underestimating these tech bros. They can do whatever they want. It's
It's
just a matter of if it makes money for them and if they
yeah.
care.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
just to clarify some things. So a lot of Google and Apple Google come from internal tools that are converted into products. And then they see
Mhm.
whether the product catches on or not, and then that determines how long it stays. When I already suspected that Google was at some point was gonna move Google Podcasts into YouTube because YouTube is their audio, video distribution space. So, like, it didn't make sense to have both of those running along. I think it was
Mhm.
just a matter of, like, how do we integrate like, figuring out how to do it through YouTube and seeing what works and all that and testing it out before they said, "Okay, now we're shutting this down." Apple, from how people look at Spotify, especially since Spotify basically has stepped all over Apple's market share, both in music and podcasting, I they're kinda like I think and this is all speculation, it's kind of like, "You alright, you think you're badass, well, you know, your business model is I have to be on you have to be on a platform in order to capitalize off of this stuff, right? They want you in their ecosystem." Apple's like, we'll just open up our ecosystem and allow other people to bring you here and give you an
Mhm.
alternative than having to go that way and show you that, like, because I mean, we're still the number 1 distribution for podcasts or so to and I don't know. The data is always conflicting at some point, but it's kind of like you force people here. We're just going to give them what they want over here, and let them run with it, and and let the best option win, type of thing. I wish Apple would treat Apple Podcasts like they do a lot of their products, but they have a philosophy in regards to it. Maybe it's something when they added it to iTunes when Steve Jobs was around that, they're trying to maybe he had a philosophical thing that they're still trying to hold on to. I don't know, but, you know, um, I just I think this helps with what Michelle was saying is, like, decide what platforms you're gonna rock with, and then just dedicate yourself to that and but I do tell people, at least try to figure out where your audience is consuming your content and meet them there. Like, I'm not gonna do stuff on LinkedIn. Like, there's no point. My audience is not on LinkedIn. Like, not the audience, not how I wanna approach my audience. It's not on LinkedIn, so I mean, I'm not even I don't I've only been focusing on Instagram, here in YouTube. Like let's just do rock with that. Like if the team that I work with wants to expand to TikTok and all that stuff, that's on you, yo. You put yourself in that work. I'm not doing it no more. I'm not managing that no more. Yeah, basically, Michael. If it dies, it dies.
I don't know. There's been a lot of LinkedIn hate, and as somebody with almost 14,000 followers on there, I obviously cannot join in, but I have a different audience, so, it just is what it is.
To
Um,
be fair, I never really concentrated on building my audience on LinkedIn. Like when I think about it, I'm just like, oh, more work. I don't have the capacity to deal with the social media stuff anymore. Um, but yeah,
LinkedIn is not very social, which is interesting.
I don't know with the
I
bots.
think that's why I like it.
I think with the bots and everything,
I don't encounter a lot of bots.
I see it all the
I
time.
encounter a lot of
all the
lurkers.
time. Oh my god.
I encounter a lot of lurkers, and I think that is what's most interesting to me about LinkedIn. Because I was posting daily at a time when, like, nobody was posting daily on LinkedIn, um, except maybe Justin Welsh, who everybody knows, but, like, you need to connect. You can. I don't post daily anymore, but I still do post, and I've been posting about my daily podcast challenge. I think it's just for me, if you have, like, 2% personality, which I like to think that I do, and you post somewhat consistently and you have something to share on a regular basis, which I do, it just works, and I got a lot of and I'm also in the DMs on LinkedIn, so I'm, like, active in everywhere you can be active on LinkedIn, and it's paid off, but
You might have
that's
to
just me.
that because
I actually am curious, what platforms if you guys could share with the audience where you're focused for this year so far, I think that would be interesting. Um, so you said LinkedIn, Angela. What other platforms are you focused on this year so far?
In terms of focus, like, I post on LinkedIn, but I'm not doing daily.
Okay.
I've been trying to post pretty regularly because 'cause I'm pushing this daily podcast, but from what I've seen, like, the newsletters are at a point where it's better like, I get more subscribers and more clicks when other people who are reading my newsletters share the articles than me sharing them, so I stopped posting my own article links for the most part for that reason, because it was just more beneficial for other people to share it for me. Um so yeah, still do use LinkedIn. I post on Threads occasionally. I'm not super active on Threads in terms of posting. I comment, and I've had quite a couple comments go viral, which is it's always the dumbest shit that I post. It's never anything
oh yeah,
enlightening.
yeah.
But but I've had a couple comments that have done numbers, and I think that's a strength of Threads, either posting something really good or like having a really good comment. Quote retweets or quote reposts don't work as well. And then the other majority of my time is being spent on the podcast. I'm going to be bringing back video podcast in March. I just cannot put my face on video every day for a daily podcast challenge. Sorry, love you, mean it. I'm cute still, but like y'all just got to catch me in March. And then the newsletter as well. Um and then for Melanin MVP, I'll be doing some YouTube stuff. I really want to get that one off the ground. I think we have some really fun formats, like with the overheard format that we have. And we're going to be doing some race recaps that are going to be really fun. So I'm excited for those. But that's where I'm spending majority of my time on the internet, and that seems to be working.
Corey, what about you?
I spend a lot of times on Threads trying to prevent myself from being unhinged on there because
I've
it's
been watching you.
easy to feed in. So I'll just be replying to people's stuff,
I saw.
The funny thing about Threads is I realize that, like, it curates depending on the content that you're looking at or you're engaging with. And I think the hashtag and community well, some of them turn into now communities. Like, I got an alert that the podcast
Community.
thread is now a community, which is cool. I like Threads because people are actually engaged on it. Like, I've seen some people talk about podcasts of people who I know, and I'm like sending them screenshots like, "Yo, like people are listening. You might not get the feedback on your podcast, but people are like, oh my god, like Nicole Hill from our ancestors were messy, right? Like I sent her a bunch of screenshots. Was like, yo, like you're. She's like, I was wondering where this uptick came from, and I was like, you probably need to get on Threads because you got an audience on Threads, like that's really
Mhm.
into your content and talking about your show. So like, so Threads is for me. Um, Looking at what Dawn is saying in the comments, and listening to Angela, I'm probably gonna have to, since I'm trying to get back into consulting and stuff, I'm probably gonna have to do LinkedIn.
I feel like you could just stay on Threads. Like, I feel like there's
Yeah.
people who are doing
Substack
really well finding people in
Substack,
Threads.
I know Rob does well on Threads. Substack, I'm definitely gonna be concentrating on, and then, thank God that Substack does the whole YouTube thing because we've been getting a lot of uptick on our content on my Substack on my YouTube channel because Substack takes clips in this full video and puts it on our YouTube channel. So my subscriptions has gone up. My watch time. I'm starting to hit that monetization part. Every week I see it going up just a little bit. Oh, when you really put some effort into the YouTube channel, we probably will hit it faster. But that's where I'm really at right now.
Okay, so for me, very deeply focused on the newsletter. Um, I absolutely love the podcast. I feel like we didn't touch on this, but the whole concept of like editorials specific to the content that you're putting out on your podcast. So that's something I'm deeply like kind of working on. I'm adding YouTube this year. Clearly, we're on Substack and then Threads. Very much focused on Threads. I actually think that's going to be great, especially actually for my Colorado project. I think that uh, for my Colorado project, Threads in particular will be wildly easy to grow, and also our group there. If you tap on the heart, it becomes a mountain. It's like the coolest thing ever. And the podcast one, if you tap on a heart, I think it becomes a mic. So I don't know if you ever noticed that when you're in the group, but it's cool. So those are the spaces I'm at. LinkedIn, by the way, even though I'm like, oh, LinkedIn, if you get in front of the right people, those people spend money, right? Or they're looking for ideally what you have, what you're putting in front of them. I just don't enjoy the platform. It's just meh. And so if that's the case, I'm just not there. It doesn't mean that once a month I don't put something on there. It's just not exciting for me. It's a good platform for some though, for sure. By the way, everybody, I don't know if you know, there is now the ability to use the scheduling feature. If you have an Android phone, you can schedule the live streams in Substack. So just heads up on that.
Yeah, Android finally caught up.
Finally, god dang. Um, I'm getting distracted by the comments. Sorry.
Does anybody have any questions? Please feel free. Ask in the comment section. Somebody's typing away. Oh.
Sorry, can you hear that?
Angela,
Can you
yes.
hear that? Okay. Whoops, my bad.
It's all right. It's all right.
Our podcast mic supposed to have rejection?
That's why you're probably having a microphone on your table. It starts picking up everything.
But it's mounted. It's not like I don't know. I thought it was supposed to have good rejection. I don't know. My bad, y'all. Been typing in y'all's ear.
Eat
That's all right.
like this.
Mm-mm. We're not there. Okay.
I
Well,
think
it's been
that's
over an
it.
hour. If nobody has questions, we
Should we
will go ahead and wrap up.
event?
Yes. So if you RSVP'd for the Anti-Grifter Social Club Virtual Summit, which is a very long name, but we thank you for reading it all, it will not be taking place this Thursday and Friday as originally planned. We needed a little more time to confirm our speakers and to get the run of show together. So it will be happening. It'll just be happening 2 months from now in April. So April 16th and 17th, still a Thursday and a Friday. I'll drop the link in the replay so you guys can sign up for one or both days, preferably both. We'd love to see you there. And yes, it will not be hosted exclusively on Substack Live. We will be hosting it on Riverside. And so we'd love for you to join us there. It'll be a very similar experience. You'll join us in the chat. We'll hang out. We'll have a good time. We'll have some giveaways, all those good
We have
things.
some great speakers that are going to be speaking.
Yeah.
We're running an online summit, people, in case you're like, what's happening? And we refer to ourselves as the Anti-Grifter Social Club. It's a little tongue in cheek. And the conversation's all about story. So yeah. That's it.
Mhm.
I'm about to start watching Heated Rivalry again. So with that, Corey.
Oh, and if you're gonna be here in New York City, next week for On Air Fest, like holla.
Oh,
Um, I'm actually honored. I was asked to possibly accept an award on behalf of someone if they should win. So I'm gonna be at the Ambies for the first time ever. So yeah, I'm gonna
oh,
be a little dressed up.
all right.
I'm not
And
excited out, but I'm gonna, I don't wanna embarrass myself with the community, so
You
the
guys are
Ambies were at
right.
Podcast Movement Chicago, so it's very interesting to see that they were like, "Screw that, we're not going to Austin, we're going to On Air Fest Brooklyn."
yeah,
That's funny.
it'll be interesting. But, my name's Corey Gums. I am the founder of the Black Podcast Association. I also am the founder, editor of blackpodnews.com, BLK Pod News, right, that can be read right here on Substack.
Angela.
Yes, Michael, exactly. All of them. It takes all the people. My name is Angela. I write Please Hustle Responsibly and Melanin MVP. There are newsletters for creative entrepreneurs and women of color sports fans, respectively. You can check them out here on Substack. Michelle?
Hey, my name is Michelle Jackson. I run Creators Getting Paid, where my goal is to help creators better monetize through list building and collaboration. I also run Square State Colorado. If you follow me on Threads, you'll see a lot of conversation around Colorado and the fact that we have fires right now because we have high heat and no snow. Fun. Anyway, so if you're interested in that, let me know and I'll send you a link to that as well. Thank you guys so much for joining us next week. I don't remember what the topic is, but they're all good. So we'll see you next week on Tuesday. And as always, we loved having you guys here with us. So
Thank you, everybody.
bye
Bye.
bye.